Welcome to the Rocket Raygun Awards for 2016. We have come to the Best RPG category. I've got my buddies Ben Silverman, Steve Tilley, and Jose Sanchez standing by to help me decide the winner. The nominees are Final Fantasy 15, Dark Souls 3, Deus Ex: Mankind Divided, Fire Emblem Fates, or Pokémon Sun and Moon. A game so good they make it in 2 cartridges. All right, so what are we going to pick here? Ben Silverman, what's your pick for Best RPG of 2016?
What a fucking weird year for RPGs.
Yes.
That list is all over the place. I think this is an unfortunate year for RPGs because last year was like the best year for RPGs. We had The Witcher 3 and Fallout 4, 2 of the best RPGs I've ever played.
Yeah.
And then you come into 2016 and it's like, well, we got like Deus Ex, which is kind of an RPG, but it's kind of not.
Yeah.
We got Dark Souls, which is kind of an RPG and kind of not.
Yeah.
I think, Final Fantasy 15 is the one that
It's kind of an RPG and it's kind of not.
It's kind of not, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are going to be focusing on that game. I came to it late. I just started playing it last week. And like a lot of Final Fantasy games, it takes longer than just a couple days to get into it. And what I'm already finding is a bit of a similar feeling that I had with Last Guardian, although I like Last Guardian more, which is that there are moments in this game that are so crazy and brilliant and big. They really know how to hit the big things in Final Fantasy games. Like the concepts, the cars, the gang and the this and the choco, like they meld totally, bizarre elements into one game and somehow make it work. But they can't get the little things right. And in this game, the car is infuriating. Running everywhere is infuriating.
Cindy's costume.
Infuriating. They just kind of
yeah.
like embarrass themselves with like the basics and do this great job with the vision. And to me, an RPG is all about the little things. It's all about the tinkering in the menus and the like moment to moment experience about it. It's not just about its vision. So for this category, for me, I'm going to go with Dark Souls because I'm a Dark Souls guy. I think it's a little bit of a weird fit here, but this is much more of an RPG than like Bloodborne, which is more of an action game.
Yeah.
And I think what they learned from Bloodborne in the development of Dark Souls 3 really benefited the franchise. It's a lot tighter with its action. You're a lot more mobile. You can kind of dodge out of the way better. And I don't think anybody in the world creates monsters and just creepy visions anywhere near as well as this development studio does. They really know how to just throw you off your game, and right when you think you've got it, even if you're badass like Jose, you're gonna die.
Yeah.
Things are gonna happen. You're gonna be punished into learning it. This is, again, I think a down year for RPGs. I would have loved to see another big, traditional, like a BioWare or whatever.
Mass Effect, yeah.
But yeah, those are my kinds of RPGs more so than
the big winner at the Game Awards was the DLC for The Witcher 3, and I considered adding that to our list here, but I don't think that's quite appropriate. I think we should be talking about brand new releases, like the mothership, and I think that these 5 make a better case for that. But The Witcher 3, I think, is such a massive experience. It certainly carried over from 2015 into 2016 for most of us. It's just a huge, huge game. But yeah, I think Dark Souls 3 was a phenomenal game, and certainly talk about a success story with From, right? Like they just keep getting better and better with and bigger and reaching out to more people and convincing them that the abuse is worth it.
And somehow this is a game that a lot of people sort of played and then stopped talking about. And that's unique, I think, for Dark Souls. Usually Dark Souls games come out and like all year long, like when Bloodborne came out, all anybody talked about all year long for the PS4 was Bloodborne. I think Dark Souls kind of like people are starting to get a little bit tired of the formula, or people are maybe like they play it for a bit, and if you're into it, you're just going to be into it. And if you're not into it, you're just not into it. Yeah. So they're starting to, I think, need to look to reinvent it a little. But in this, what I consider to be a relatively weak year for RPGs, it's going to get my vote.
All right. Jose, you have a love-hate relationship with Dark Souls. What were your thoughts? Is that your pick too?
Yeah, Dark Souls is going to be my pick. I just feel like it was, I know a lot of people, we talked about it when we shot in Ben's basement a few weeks ago, how a lot of people said that Dark Souls 3 was the hardest of the Dark Souls game. But for me, having gone from pure hate to love for Dark Souls 2, jumping into this game, finally realizing how I'm supposed to be playing this game, not playing it like a complete asshole like I normally would.
Yeah.
It was the first Dark Souls game that I finished and I felt like amazing. Like it was just like gratifying feeling. Even the DLC, like jumping in and playing some of the DLC that just came out like a month or two ago. I was ready to jump back in. I mean, I get what Ben was saying, how a lot of people, talk about this experience of playing this game throughout the year. But for me, it was like I sat there for the first month it was out until I finished it, and then I put it aside until this new DLC came out, and then I jumped back in. But it's just, I don't know, there's something gratifying about when it clicks and when you understand how you're supposed to be playing this game and what you're supposed to level up and what should you level up to make sure that you can, do the things that you want to do. And you see some guys that you can like summon in other people into the game, and they're just got these badass spells, and I'm just here with my big sword, calling in my friends, and with your lightning power, I'm just gonna drop away, and keep slicing and dicing with your lightning bolts and your fire spells. But it makes you want to jump in and see like, well, shit, maybe I could take a different approach and learn spells instead of just coming in with my weapons. And so many different ways to play that game. So that's definitely gonna. Final Fantasy is a game I want to dive deeper into. I mean, it just recently came out, so I haven't had much time to play it. Even Deus Ex was a good experience with the whole recapping of exactly what happened in previous Deus Ex games if you missed out on any of those. But Dark Souls, man. I mean, there's a few good JRPGs I played on Steam this year. I Am Setsuna is a pretty solid JRPG.
Yep.
But yeah, Dark Souls 3 gonna get my nod.
Okay, Steve, what are your thoughts?
I try to give every Final Fantasy release 3 to 4 or 5 hours off the top to see if I can, if it'll suck me in. They never do, and Final Fantasy 15 was the same way. I mean, I'm not a JRPG guy. I'm not, and I sort of, while I embrace the spectacle of Final Fantasy games, I just can't get behind the characters. I can't get behind some of the mechanics. It's just not a good fit for me.
Yeah.
But if we're going to talk about, I mean, Dark Souls, you can't. Dark Souls 3 was a fantastic continuation of something that we already know. But I felt like it was just sort of building on what's been there before. Whereas, although the game I'm going to pick did the exact same thing. I'm a huge Deus Ex fan. The original Deus Ex is my all-time favorite PC game. Human Revolution didn't quite do it for me. And I feel like a lot of the things that were wrong with that were fixed in Mankind Divided. And I love the construction of this hub world in Prague and the attention to detail in the design of the world and even the clothes. This is like the first game I've ever played where I've said, I wish I could buy that outfit that guy's wearing. It looks badass.
Prague was another level too, wasn't it?
Like this.
Because I feel like the Dubai mission at the beginning, it doesn't do the game any service. It's not fun. It doesn't look great.
Not representative of the rest of the game.
No, and then when you get to Prague, it's like, wow, I get it now. This is beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably their biggest misstep in the design. Is the Dubai mission it's sort of meant as a tutorial level, but I know a lot of people who quit the game because of that. They just couldn't get a handle on it. Whereas once you get to Prague and then start, picking your missions and going through the story and upgrading your augs and rifling through people's apartments. I bet I did more B&Es in this game than I think I've done in my entire gaming career. But I just thought they did a really solid job. I mean, there's a couple levels in there that they designed a huge environment that's just one level, one part of the story, like this huge Swiss Alps complex. It's used for one chapter, one story, and that's it. You're in and out, and yet it's still the attention to detail and the
that was amazing.
Yeah, the sense of what the future could be was fantastic. So while I wouldn't call it a traditional RPG, it is sort of that kind of weird action RPG hybrid. As a Deus Ex fan, I was not disappointed, and I think it's the only game I played through completely twice this year.
Yeah, it's an amazing game. And, we do have to shout out the 2 3DS games that are on this list, Fire Emblem Fates and Pokémon Sun and Moon. Not necessarily sort of overturning the apple cart and reinventing anything. I think Pokémon Sun and Moon tried something kind of fresh with the Hawaiian kind of theme and changing it from trainers to these big kahunas and there's totem Pokemon and stuff like that. There was a little bit more of a... not enough, frankly, but a little bit more sort of pace, like let's get to this, let's get into it a little bit more, a little bit faster. I think that they still have more to learn in that direction, but it was super fun. Fire Emblem, I think, it pulls all of the ingredients that we've known from Fire Emblem together so well, but the big deal there was that there were 3 separate massive stories that were included under this huge overarching story. And very, very hard to put those games down. And I think even though the core of it is a strategy turn-based game where you're trying to basically chess your way to win, the overarching sort of narrative stuff that's in Fire Emblem is always incredibly impressive. They really go the extra mile with that. I too really enjoyed Dark Souls 3, but I am not as patient with the game design in those From games as you guys are. I loved Deus Ex. But the game that really blew me away this year, and I knew I was going to like it from the early sit-downs that I had with it, was Final Fantasy 15. I just feel like Square didn't really hold back anything. They tried to throw everything they possibly could at Final Fantasy 15, and it's got a sort of a vibe. I call it the everything but the kitchen sink kind of game. I think they threw the kitchen sink in there too. I love the Zoolander crew cruising around, going to gas stations and having gas parties, and having, getting stuck without any gas and having to push your car, which I did on my live stream, by the way. I had 100 people watch me push a car for 15 minutes, and it was amazing. But the battles are incredible. They're huge. They're massive. Some of the interpersonal stuff is always a little bit weird and quirky. But I just love the scope and scale of Final Fantasy 15. The ambition is impressive as hell. That's getting my vote, but the winner for the best RPG of 2016 is Dark Souls 3. Congratulations, From. You got a lot of fans over here at EP. We'll be back with more Rocket and Ray Guns. Don't go away.